everyone, welcome to Val's Kitchen. I'm Val, and this is my kitchen. Today we're gonna make a pizza with the dough I made in a previous episode. I'll make sure to put a link in the description. And today we're gonna start at the point where the dough is made. Just make sure to go watch that video first. The dough was made last night, so it makes the whole process simpler today. After work, you can have a homemade pizza on the table. If you're not adventurous enough to make the pizza dough, you can purchase them. Sometimes you can check your local pizza place. They may sell their doughs for a couple of dollars, just a fresh dough. So let's get started. So we have the dough mixing in the KitchenAid. I'm getting ready to prepare for the pizza. So I got a 16-ounce block of whole milk mozzarella cheese, and I'm shredding it. I'm one of those people that refuse to buy pre-shredded cheese. To me, it makes your meal taste so much better. All the food will taste so much better if you could just take the few minutes to shred the cheese yourself. And I know, believe me, it's a lot of work and it's so much easier to open the bag, but you're not gonna get the flavor that you get from this cheese when you shred it yourself. And this cheese, look how soft this is. It's kind of falling apart. It's gonna be so good on the pizza. When you get it in the bag, it's gonna be dry and powdery. It's just not the same. I do that for cheddar cheese also. I like to shred my own. I like to make a pizza with a cheese crust. Tonight we're using cheddar cheese, and I cut them into long strips, but kind of thick, because you want to have nice cheese in your crust. So I'll probably need about 2 more slices of this. And if I have extra, somebody can always eat the pieces that I cut. So I cut a slice like that, and then cut that slice in half so that we have it like this, right? And that's gonna be for the crust. I'm gonna put that to the side. And check in on the dough, it's looking good. So here's last night's dough. And today I'm using a Pampered Chef stone. Really, you can make it in anything, any kind of pan that you want. Today, I'm doing it on the stone. One thing I like to do when I'm using the stone is just put a little bit of cornmeal down. This is actually some polenta that I have. Just sprinkle, let's see, this is a teaspoon. I'm gonna just sprinkle some cornmeal. And this kind of gives it a little bit of that crunch on the bottom. Maybe about 1.5 teaspoons then. Just gives it a little texture. I'm taking a little bit of olive oil on my hands because I want to be able to work with the dough, even though there's still some in on the dough here. Okay. So here's last night's dough, and it's pretty stretchy. We're gonna be able to stretch it out a little bit. You wanna just work with it. Now you don't wanna get any holes, so you gotta be careful when you see it thinning out. Go to the thicker parts and start stretching where the thick part is. I've got a thin part right there, so I'm gonna press it down a little bit. See, do this, we're gonna just stretch it out. Because I'm putting the cheese in the crust, I'm gonna have to stretch it out to overhang on the stone. So right now I'm not getting that stretch that I need, so I'm gonna let it rest for just a few minutes, and then it's gonna give me some more stretch when I pull on it without ripping it. If you rip it, just pinch it together. It's not gonna be a big problem if that happens. It's just better if it doesn't. I've got my oven already preheating. It's on 375. I'm gonna put this to the side for a moment because I wanna let it rest, and then I'm gonna go ahead and stretch it to overhang so I can put the cheese in the crust. I'll be back in a second. We let it sit for a few minutes, and you can see already, look at how it allows me to gently pull it, and it's hanging over the sides very easily. It's a little thin right there, so just look out for the thin spots. You're gonna wanna push from the middle to the outside if you see it starting to get thin at the outside. But just a few minutes of rest has given me the stretch that I need to get the overhang for the cheese. We just take these little blocks of cheese. Some of them are bigger. You don't have to be exact. This is home cooking. It tastes great, and you don't have to worry about it being beautiful, because it really will taste good. I'm gonna break this one right here, like that. Stick that piece right there, okay? So stretch it out a little bit more, and we're gonna roll it over the cheese, just like this. You wanna make sure it stays at the edge, make sure it's rolled over, and I've got enough dough to cover it. Then we could stretch it to the edges, and there we go. Now I'm pressing it down. Be careful here, because you don't want to make a hole in it, because then the cheese will all bubble out. You don't want the cheese to come out and go into the oven. But this is perfect like this. Now the dough's going to have to rest with a tea towel covering it, just to rise a little bit. I do like to add a little bit of olive oil and rub it in all on the edges. This will help it so it doesn't dry out too. I like to rub it all in here. It's going to help the edges, the crust, to also get crispy. And then you take a tea towel. A tea towel is a towel that won't have lint. It's just a thin cotton towel. I'm going to put this to the side, let it rest for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back. We're going to go back to our dough that we let rest and rise a little bit. Okay, it could probably go a little bit longer, but we're hungry, so we're going to start. So one thing, sometimes I do this before I put the tea towel on, is I like to put the garlic powder on the edges of the crust. We just like the way it tastes. Just a little bit. Might as well put a little bit in the middle too. So here's some marinara sauce I had in the freezer. That was from another episode. Check the comments below for the link. It freezes so well. You can have 2 meals out of it. We had it with pasta the first night. Tonight we're having it with pizza. So I like to heat it up. You probably don't have to, but I just think the heat of the sauce is going to help the crust of the pizza to rise a little bit more. So it's not hot, but it is warmed up right now. So I'm gonna take a thin layer right now of the sauce, just a thin layer, over the bottom, because we're gonna let it cook for about 10 minutes with this thin layer of sauce over it. Make sure the rack is in the bottom. Place the rack in the bottom of your oven, and you're gonna cook it for 10 minutes with just this light layer of sauce. I also like to put a little bit of Parmesan cheese down on this light layer of sauce before it cooks. And I don't usually measure it. I'm just gonna do just a little. I would say it's probably half of a quarter cup, so 1/8 of a cup. All right, and I may just add a little bit of oregano on top. I like the taste of the dried oregano. And when I use oregano, I like to squeeze it between my fingers, and you can smell that goodness, that oregano goodness. Okay, so this is gonna go in the oven for 10 minutes on the bottom half of the oven. Put the rack on the bottom. All right, 10 minutes is up. Oh, look at this. It's looking good. Looking good. Oh yeah, you can see how the dough on the crust has risen. It's gonna be nice and puffy, and that cheese inside. So we're gonna take the rest of our sauce and put it on the dough. Now some people like a lot of sauce, some don't. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, especially if it's my marinara sauce. I kind of like a lot, but it does make it messy when you go to eat it. I'm getting some of the tomatoes on the crust just because we like it that way, so it's not so dry. So you can see how I'm putting them up here on the crust, just a little bit. Now I'm gonna spread some more sauce. You don't want too much because it will make the dough soggy. That seems just about right. Now I'm gonna take the mozzarella cheese that I shredded myself. Don't buy it in the bag. And I'm gonna start spreading it around. I'm even gonna have some of this mozzarella cheese left over. I'll probably put it in a Ziploc bag in the freezer for something else. I'm not gonna need all this cheese. Now I'm gonna put some more of that Parmesan cheese or Asiago, Romano, whatever you have. They all will taste delicious. And I'm sprinkling that all around. Probably used about a 1/4 cup total because I put some on before when we cooked it for 10 minutes. Okay. We'll save some because we like to add it after it's cooked. All right. Now I like a little bit more oregano. Just going to use a little bit of oregano. Sprinkle on top. Crush it between your fingers. A little bit more. All right. I like to put a little splash of olive oil on it. I know, it's going to be fattening. I just like just a little splash. Okay. All right, now if you had any toppings, you would put your pepperoni, your mushrooms, peppers, whatever you want to put on it. We're just doing cheese pizza tonight. So it's ready to go back in the oven. It's going to need about 20 more minutes on that lower rack. All right, put it back in. All right, ready to put on broil. Oh, look at it. Oof, it's looking great. I'm going to put it on the top shelf. Be careful. This is why I have burns all over my wrists and my arms. Now, when I put it on broil, I'm going to keep the door ajar, switch it over to broil on high. And then you got to keep an eye on it. You don't want it to get burnt, but you do want the cheese to start bubbling and get a little bit brown. You'll see. Oh, yeah. You can hear that sizzle. Okay, I say that's about it. Let it rest for about 5 minutes. It makes it easier to cut. You won't burn your mouth when you go to eat it. Spread dough on a pizza pan or a stone with hands. If it doesn't reach the edges, let the dough rest for a few minutes. Then go back to it to stretch until it overhangs at the edge. Place cheddar strips along the inside edge of the pan and cover with the dough, pressing down to seal. Rub olive oil on the dough and sprinkle the crust with garlic powder. Cover with a tea towel and let rise about 15 minutes. Add a thin layer of marinara sauce and sprinkle with half the Parmesan cheese. Cook on bottom rack for 10 minutes. Remove from the oven and add more sauce, mozzarella cheese, and the rest of the Parmesan cheese. You can add any toppings on top now. Sprinkle with oregano. Might want to put a splash of olive oil. Cook another 20 minutes on the bottom rack. You want to move it to the top rack and set the oven to broil. And keep the oven door ajar. Remove when the top of the pizza starts bubbling and gets brown. Let it sit a few minutes before slicing, and you're ready to eat. Hey guys, thanks for coming to my kitchen. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If there's anything you'd like us to feature, go ahead and let us know in the comments. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. I'll see you next time on Val's Kitchen.